Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Erin Molan Show, wherever you are around the world. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your very valuable time with us. We will reward you, as always, with a great show coming up. We've got Goldie Ghamari on, who is an Iranian activist, an incredibly passionate woman, former politician. She says two things very clearly. The regime will fall, America will strike. Now, Charlie Kirk's accused assassin is back in court. We'll have an update on that. Plus, Billie Eilish. This is one of the greatest things I've seen. Remember how she got up on stage at the Grammys and she was talking about stolen land? Well, the apparent, according to her, rightful owners of her multi-million-dollar mansion have come out and said, wait a minute, she hasn't asked us about that. You could not make this up. It is utterly brilliant. Plenty to come. But first, here's a word from our sponsors. And guys, again, support our sponsors because they support us and allow us to do this for you. Now, New Year's resolutions sound great on January 1st, but by January 10th, well, not so much. This year, there's one resolution, though, that's actually worth keeping. Getting your finances in order. You need to do it. Now, for many people, that starts with balance, not just growth, but protection too. And this, my friends, is where Noble Gold Investments comes in. For over a decade, Noble Gold has helped investors add physical gold and silver to their portfolios, which can reduce exposure to market volatility and economic uncertainty. We cover so much of that here every day. And if this sounds complicated, I promise you it's not. It starts with a simple conversation about your goals. And Noble Gold, well, they take it from there. There's no pressure, there's no sales gimmicks, just clear answers and a strategy built around you, not this one-size-fits-all. So make this a year you stop putting off your finances and start getting them in order. Now visit noblegoldinvestments.com/Erin. That's noblegoldinvestments.com/Erin. The man accused of killing Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson, was back in court again. So his team are trying to strike out members of the prosecution, saying there's a conflict of interest. This is after we learned of Erica Kirk's plea for the judge to allow significant media access to the trial, given the level, of course, of public interest, the figure that Charlie was. But I also suspect that this has a lot to do with the very public skepticism / outright accusations by some with huge platforms regarding who is actually responsible for Charlie's death, i.e. Candace Owens, and some of the utter garbage she has irresponsibly put out there. Not backed up in any way, shape or form, of course. That's never key. She just moves on to the next topic, the next extremist thing to say, the next clickbait bit of content to put out. But of course, Erica is calling for transparency, which would be bizarre if she was somehow involved, as Candace likes to imply constantly. Simultaneously, a man has been sentenced to up to 15 years for falsely claiming that he killed Charlie. He also pleaded guilty to sexual exploitation of a minor, so he's clearly just a complete grub of a person. George Zinn is his name. But it got me thinking, a guy who falsely said that he killed Charlie, sentenced, what happens to those people who falsely accuse others of killing Charlie? Shouldn't there be a consequence for that? Food for thought. Food for thought. Billie Eilish. Remember when she said this, and we've brought it to you, I think yesterday's episode or the one before, but remember this little cherub up on stage alongside all of the ice out idiots there at the Grammys. Have a little reminder.
No one is illegal on stolen land.
Well, the Tongva tribe, whose ancestral land Billie's multi-million-dollar mansion is on, have come out, I mean, this is just gold, and confirmed that she hasn't reached out to return her stolen land. Of course she hasn't. They live in utter hypocrisy. So a spokesperson for this tribe told the Daily Mail, as the first people of the greater Los Angeles basin, we do understand that her home is situated in our ancestral land. They also confirmed that the A-lister has not reached out to the tribe itself regarding her property or anything else. I mean, when celebrities do this kind of thing, this posturing, this pretending to care, this kind of, selective outrage, you hope that this is the kind of response because it just is so good. Doesn't always happen. When it does happen, I just look up and I say thank you. I look up and I say, thank you. I mean, they should keep the pressure on. If she's true to her word, she should be giving it back. How do you buy a mansion and put big gates around it and have security on it to stop all the people that ICE are trying to clean up off the streets from getting to your home when you're on stolen land, Billie? It's just bizarre. It makes no sense. We have an update on the Sydney nurses. Now, they have pleaded not guilty. Remember them? They were the ones in this viral video allegedly threatening to kill Israeli patients. Now, the charge is using a carrier service to menace, harass and defend. Abu Lebdeh is also charged with threatening violence against a group. Now, we have strict laws here in Australia, contempt of court, etc., etc. So I'm not going to give my opinion or my take. It was made very clear when I did this segment, when this first happened, how I felt. But let me just remind you of this video itself, and then you think about their plea of not guilty. Watch.
Good, how are you, my man?
Pretty good. Are you a nurse, a doctor?
I'm a doctor, my man.
A doctor? For what?
In hospital. What about you? Where are you from?
I'm from Israel, from the Holy Land.
Right. You know what? I'm gonna be really honest with you.
All right.
I'm gonna be really honest with you. You actually got a really, really beautiful eyes.
Thank you, man.
But I'm so upset that you're Israeli. Like, eventually you're gonna get killed and you're gonna go to Jahannam, inshallah. Like, these pretty eyes, they should stay in this world for longer.
Why do you think? Why do you think I'm gonna get killed?
It's Palestine's country, not your country, you piece
How
of
are you? What's your name?
No, none of you.
We're talking politely here. We're talking politely here.
One day, your time will come and you will die the most horrible
You
death.
sprayed hate, we sprayed positivity, we spread protection, we spread
listen to me,
peace.
Listen to me.
And you spread
when your
death.
time comes.
How are you doctors? Wait.
I want you to remember my face.
Okay,
so
okay.
You can understand
Gotcha.
That you will
I have
die
a question
the most
though.
disgusting death.
All right, for sure. I have a question though.
Yeah,
I have a question. Let's say an Israeli. God forbid.
I won't treat them. I'll kill them.
You'll kill them? So if an Israeli is in Australia and God forbid something happened to him, and he comes to your hospital,
I hope to God.
Would you kill him?
Okay, you have no idea how many Israeli Khara dog came to this hospital and I sent him to Jahannam. I literally sent him to Jahannam.
For real? So
Now, Steve Witkoff, Trump's envoy to the Middle East, along with others, has met with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Apparently went well. It was positive. Amit Segal, who's one of the foremost, most prominent journalists in Israel, has said this. He came out with an ex-post that said, sources familiar with the meeting between US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Israel's security establishment said it was conducted in an extremely positive and productive atmosphere. The meeting included a thorough intelligence briefing led by IDF Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, who made clear that any strike against Israel would be met with an immediate and unusually powerful response, including against unexpected targets. I continue, quote, Israeli officials warned in the meeting that Iran has no intention of compromising on its nuclear ambitions and that negotiations are being used to buy time and stop an attack. I mean, makes sense to me. There's no way the Islamic regime will accept any conditions put on it by the US. Zero chance. The US knows that. They know that. I know that. You know that. The Islamic regime deputy speaker said in Parliament this week, this is not just some kind of commentator like you might get in democratic societies where people give their take, but you can say, well, look, it wasn't the government saying it. That's not us. He's part of the government, illegally there, of course. They're not a government, they're a pretend one. He said, in about a month, we will recite the funeral prayer for Trump, the US and their allies. The Islamic regime deputy speaker said in Parliament that. You think Trump and co are sitting there going, yeah, this is a regime we can really have a good deal with and a long, fruitful relationship filled with mutual respect and peace? No chance in hell. Come on. Come on. Now, someone who knows this as much as anyone is my guest today. Her name is Goldie Ghamari. She is a firebrand. She fights day in, day out for her people, and it was an honour to have her on the show. Goldie Ghamari, thank you so much for joining us here on the Erin Molan Show. It is such a privilege to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm a big fan of your work.
Right back at you. You are insane. And I mean, the old me didn't realize how difficult the world found truth. The new me, post-October 7, understands absolutely. And the price you pay for telling it. You don't strike me, though, as someone who cares overly much what other people think of you. Would that be a correct assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was an elected official, I tried to be a little bit more, I guess you want to call it politically correct, in terms of raising awareness about what's happening in occupied Iran, because there are some tensions there. But, you know, after the National Council of Canadian Muslims accused me of Islamophobia for raising awareness about what's happening in occupied Iran, and I was kicked out of my party, I pretty much stopped caring what people think. And if anything, that incident actually enabled me to speak clearly and freely and take my voice and take my fight to the next level.
Looking inside Iran at the moment, my greatest fear initially was that people would not give up because it's not in their nature, but they would feel like their attempts were fruitless, that the Islamic regime would convince them that it wasn't working, that no one else was doing it, that America wasn't coming. But I'm looking through your feed, and it's one of the sources I use every day to see what's going on in the ground because you're so connected. So make sure, everyone, you follow her on X and everywhere else. But it seems like they are still hitting the streets, they are still using their voices, and they're still fighting for the things that we take for granted every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the biggest and major chants right now in this revolution is "In akharin nabard Pahlavi barmigarde," which means this is the final battle. Pahlavi will return. Of course, Pahlavi is reference to His Royal Highness King Reza Pahlavi, who's the leader of the Iranian revolution. And what he has said is that as soon as the Islamic regime falls, he's going to step in with a transitional government, and that transitional government is going to lead the country and transition the country from an Islamic dictatorship to a functioning secular democracy. And so for Iranians in occupied Iran, especially given the number of lives that we have lost, and of course, the number of injured as well. We don't talk about the number of people who have been injured, the number of people who've, had to have a limb amputated, or they've lost sight in one or both eyes. I mean, that number is even exponentially higher than the number of people who've been murdered by the Islamic regime. But the overall sentiment and mood is that we have gone so far forward that there's no turning back, and that this is the final battle.
You look at President Trump and the administration having meetings, I mean, well, purported meetings. We don't know how many of them are maybe a bluff or a real. But from my perspective, there is no deal that can be done that is a good deal, that enables the Ayatollah to survive. And I hope, and I still believe the Americans know that, and they understand this regime cannot continue. I'm terrified that there'll be an Obama-like ending to this, where the Iranian people will essentially be thrown to the wolves, having been encouraged to fight and to give their lives for this fight. What do you think will happen, and how worried are you about what American roles will be played?
I'm actually not worried at all. So I've been monitoring the situation very closely, and using sort of my political expertise and political experience to translate what not just President Trump, but the people around him are saying. So you can't just look at President Trump and his statements. You have to take a more holistic approach, and you have to see, what Senator Lindsey Graham is saying. What
he was amazing the other day. Don't talk like Reagan, but act like Obama. Perfection.
Exactly. Him. Also what Marco Rubio was saying, and also what Mark Levin and Sean Hannity are saying as well. And so they've made it very clear where President Trump stands on this. And so, if there are talks or deals happening, people think that the deal is about the Islamic regime remaining. But what I'm trying to put out there is that whatever deal that's being negotiated, it's basically terms of surrender. So President Trump, in my opinion, what he's basically saying is that they can accept the deal that President Trump is making, in that, they basically surrender and leave. or they don't accept the deal and we go to military action. And, with all the movement of the military assets we're also seeing going to the Middle East, this is the largest movement of military assets since pretty much the creation of the United States. And so I find it difficult to believe that President Trump is spending millions and millions of taxpayer dollars a day to transport all of their, the vast majority of their military assets to the Middle East if he's not planning something.
It's such a good point you make. And also the people that you named earlier, we all know are incredibly close to Trump. And you're so right in that Trump can't always say exactly what he wants to say, and it's to his benefit not to. But the people around him who are not going to want to piss him off, essentially, and who know what he's thinking, can say things. So that's a really good point. The other point you make, which is so true regarding a deal, and you look at Venezuela, and there was a deal offered there, not for the survival of Maduro, but how do you want to end this? You want us to help you get out? Either way, it's ending. But how do you want to do it? And that is such a key point you make as well. Because as we know, the nuclear facilities were essentially destroyed during the 12-day war. I know that the Islamic regime has been rebuilding and trying to do different things, but not to the point where they'd have enough leverage, right? You'd think, to where the US has to do anything that they want.
Well, I mean, we don't know. We don't know. What we do know is that the Islamic regime is definitely trying to rebuild its nuclear capabilities. And President Trump and his administration have pretty much recognized that this is a regime that is not going to stop, right? This is a regime that is centered around this Islamist jihadi ideology. Since they came to power in 1979, they've been chanting death to America, death to Israel. They've been waging war against the West. And so I think, we finally have a president and an administration who, for the first time in 47 years, is siding with the Iranian people. And the demands that President Trump has made of the Islamic regime, those are not demands that the Islamic regime will ever be able to concede to. So, so really, I mean, it's the Islamic regime is pretty much over. It's just a matter of how long are they going to stick around.
That is so reassuring to hear. And I'd love to know, given you talk to so many people on the ground there, what is their attitude at the moment? Are they with you in that they believe something will happen? They've just got to hold on until then. Are some starting to lose hope? Are they impatient? Are they frustrated? Kind of saying, where are you, Trump? You said help was coming. Are they trusting the plan? Like, what is the feedback you're getting from people on the ground who are putting their lives on the line for this fight?
I mean, so for people inside of occupied Iran, of course, it's a very stressful, very difficult situation. Some people are certainly impatient, but of course, everyone is very hopeful and looking forward to President Trump attacking. So we're all just sort of waiting for that. But of course, people in Iran, they're not stopping the fight. I mean, there's more footage coming out today of Iranians who are setting fire to Islamic regime banners. There's been some unexplained explosions that have been going on in the country today. We're also seeing a little bit of escalation between the regime and the United States. And I don't know if you've seen some of the footage coming out from the Islamic regime parliament, but now you have all these these crazy Muslim Nazis who are burning the flag of America, chanting "Death to America" in the parliament. So, I mean, the Islamic regime has made it very clear that they're not interested in negotiation. They're trying to put off like a strongman front, but all of us know that the Islamic regime, when it comes to external affairs, they're incredibly weak. The only thing the Islamic regime is good at is basically murdering unarmed Iranians.
No, nailed it. And the fake foreign minister, I call him the fake foreign minister because how can you be a legitimate foreign minister of a country you're not legitimately ruling? They stole power, as you know. Exactly, I mean, he keeps saying, we're not terrorists, and he's annoyed that Europe has labelled the IRGC terrorists. 2 days later, you see the parliament, as you just referenced, wearing IRGC uniforms, chanting death to America, death to Israel. I mean, if people don't believe, what we're saying, look at what they're saying. And this is a frustration. It's the same as the Chinese Communist Party and so many different. They're telling you who they are and what they want. And actually on that, I was looking at your feed just before our interview, your X feed, looking at Russian jets in Iran flying over. We look at Chinese big aeroplanes dropping off supplies since these protests started. If you think, oh, it's just nothing to do with me, oh, it's sad for the Iranian people, but me in the West, I'm not... Sorry, our greatest enemies are so intertwined with this, and this impacts everything, doesn't it? If this regime falls, or when it falls, as you say, that weakens China significantly, the greatest adversary we have, same as Russia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Islamic regime sells drones to Russia to use against the Ukraine. That's why you see a lot of people, a lot of Iranians flying the flag of Ukraine at our pro-Iran rallies and demonstrations around the world, because we stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine, because they're victims of these drones that are being built by the Islamic regime and being sold to Russia. And when it comes to China, I think I believe it's like almost 80% of Iran's oil is being sold to China. And so again, you know, the Islamic regime is pretty much helping to fund and fuel those two regimes, which are, of course, anti-imperialist and anti-West and anti-democracy and anti-American. So, you know, prior to 1979, Iran was a huge ally of the West, and Iran was actually one of the biggest allies of the United States. And I think the American administration has recognized that, they've remembered that, and they're well aware that when Iran is free and when the Islamic regime is overthrown, Iran and the United States can go back to being the allies that we were prior to 1979.
And that's what I say as well. You know, these people who parrot America first. A free Iran is America first. A peaceful Middle East is America first. A regime in power who doesn't want to murder your president is America first. This is deeply personal to you, I know. Do you have moments, I mean, you're so strong and you're so, you know, tough on the surface and you're fighting this incredible fight, but do you have moments where it's overwhelming for you, where you're heartbroken, where you're watching your people be slaughtered?
Yeah, absolutely. Every day. So I would say one thing that we Iranians are very good at is compartmentalizing, because this is something that we've had to deal with for the last 47 years. So these horrific images that the world is seeing today, this is not new for us. This is exactly what's been going on for the last 47 years by this Muslim Nazi dictatorship. And so many of us have had to compartmentalize. You know, we have like our regular, normal, you know, sort of identity. And then we have our Iranian identity where we think about all of these things. And so I would say that one of the reasons that we Iranians are so strong and we've been able to deal with this is because we do compartmentalize, because that's kind of the only way that we can deal with the trauma. Of course, dark humor. We also have dark sense of humor, as you saw that meme that I posted on my ex.
I laughed out loud. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, and people are going to look at that, and if they don't understand, they'll be like, oh, like Iranians are Islamophobic. Yeah, but I would say we're probably a country of 90 million Islamophobes, because we have been so brutalized by Islam and Sharia law that we're done with it. We're done with it. And, you know, we don't want to have anything to do with it. We have no issue with people having whatever religion they want to have. But at this point, it's like, you know, keep it private, keep it in your home. Iran and Iranians, like, we've been a very religiously diverse civilization. In fact, Cyrus the Great, 2,500 years ago, invented the concept of freedom of religion. And that's what we're fighting for. We want to go back to what we had prior to 1979.
When you see idiots in the West who have no comprehension of what it would be like to live under an Islamist terrorist regime, waving their flags, walking alongside Hamas flags, Hezbollah, chanting from the river to the sea, advocating for more unvetted people to come in from countries who essentially are run by terrorist organizations, and not Iran, countries where they're voted in by the people. What do you think and say? Do you see the early signs that were experienced in Iran prior to what happened nearly 50 years ago? We'll get into all of that, but first, here's a word from our partner. Now, if you were like me and you're tired of random stuff getting thrown into your supplements like artificial colours and sugars, you probably would like to know more about phytonutrition. Yes, I had to Google too. Let me save you by telling you. Phytonutrients are the naturally occurring plant nutrients found in whole foods that give them their colour, their taste and their smell. And the presence of these three things is a surefire sign you're getting real phytonutrients. Now, Balance of Nature's whole health system supplements are a value bundle that includes their fruits and veggies, fibre and spice supplements, which gives you 47 ingredients of fruits, vegetables, spices and fibres, and all of the naturally occurring phytonutrients that come with them every single day. Tick. Balance of Nature takes produce through a specialised vacuum, cold process, and it stabilises the ingredients. Now, they're then powdered and packaged with no binders, fillers or flow agents. So whether you've been on the fence for a long time or it's the first time you're hearing about them, I recommend that you go to balanceofnature.com and order the whole health system supplements as a preferred customer today. Go to balanceofnature.com. Do you see the early signs that were experienced in Iran prior to what happened nearly 50 years ago?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the Islamic coup d'etat, it did not happen overnight. It's not like people just woke up one day and, were running around yelling Allahu Akbar and, waving like communist flags. This is a process that took almost 30 to 40 years. And it was a slow creep. Yeah. So what I'm seeing right now in Western countries with this unholy alliance of the red and the black, red, of course, being communism, black being Islamism. What I'm seeing right now is very reminiscent of what was happening in Iran, I would say in sort of the mid 60s. So I would say that in Western countries, we're about, I would say 20 years away from some sort of, communist or Islamist coup d'etat. Because that's where things are going. And you're seeing more and more woke Western lefty progressives who are normalizing terrorism. They're normalizing Sharia law. They're trying to rebrand Islamic terrorists like Hamas and Hezbollah as freedom fighters and resistance. And the same anti-imperialist rhetoric, the same anti-Israel rhetoric, the same sort of narrative is exactly what we've seen in Iran in the 60s and 70s. And so that's why the Iranian national revolution, it's actually very patriotic, and we have zero tolerance for Islamism, anti-Semitism, communism, wokeism. Like we just want, we're very patriotic. We have no enmity with anyone, but we're done with the Islamist Sharia jihadi nonsense. And I have a feeling that when Iran is free and our country is stabilized in the next, 10 to 15 years, we might actually see people in the UK or elsewhere try to seek asylum in Iran to get away from the Islamism and jihadis that's going on there. Yeah.
The thing that, drives me insane, I feel like a broken record. I grew up in Indonesia, the world's largest Islamic nation, for 7-8 years during the 1990s and early 90s, late 90s when the Suharto regime fell. And what I say to people, I look at what happened in Bondi. An Islamic extremist with an ISIS flag massacred innocent people at Bondi Beach, and our Prime Minister could not say Islamic extremism afterwards. Insanity for fear of offending Muslims. And I continually say this. You look at the world's largest Muslim nation, Indonesia. The president prior to Prabowo, President Widodo, essentially launched his election campaign. One of the key pillars was to eradicate Islamic extremism. Yep. In the world's largest Muslim nation, they openly say, we don't want it here. And it's the same as other Arab states. And I'm not saying that they're, the pillars for us to look up to and want to be like, and they're flawed in a million ways. But why are we terrified in the West of offending? We should be openly... Who wants terrorism in their backyard? Nobody should. And those at the coalface, they know better than anyone, but we don't think that we should listen to them. We think we know better in the West. It'll be our downfall. We're screwed.
Well, that's been one of the tactics of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is banned in countries, like Saudi Arabia and Egypt. And the UAE, and others. And, like you said, these countries aren't necessarily bastions of freedom and democracy, right? Like Saudi Arabia is not known for its human rights. However, even a country like Saudi Arabia, which is the birthplace of Islam, understands the difference between Islam and, Islamic terrorism. However, the Muslim Brotherhood has found a foothold in Western democracies and Western countries because they are taking advantage of the freedoms given to people in Western countries, like freedom of religion, freedom of association, freedom of expression, to push the boundaries on their jihad. And so, for example, that's why you're seeing pro-Palestine, gatherings, let's say in Toronto, where these jihadis, they'll block intersections to pray and yell Allahu Akbar, but you don't see that in Saudi Arabia, because in Saudi Arabia, they don't tolerate that sort of Islamic extremism. And I'm pretty sure when, you were living in Indonesia, you probably never saw Muslims just randomly blocking intersections to pray and yell Allahu Akbar, right? Like, that doesn't happen.
They wouldn't accept it, as you say. The whole thing is crazy. I'd love to ask your reaction to, not only the Grammys, but when I look at Hollywood and feminism and all that crap, and I look at what particularly women in Iran are fighting for, that would normally be their bread and butter. Normally, Hollywood celebrities would be clamoring all over each other to stand up for women's rights. You look at the Me Too movement, but I see people who want to get a bloke sacked and cancelled because he said some chick was pretty, and that's not okay. But they're completely okay with a woman in Iran being murdered because a bit of her hair was out. Can you make that make sense to me?
I honestly can't. All I can say is that there are a few celebrities who have spoken out. J.K. Rowling is one of them.
She's phenomenal.
Huge fan of her.
Yeah.
Rob Schneider has spoken out. But in terms of the Grammys, I don't watch the Grammys. I don't really care about these sorts of things. So kind of irrelevant to me. I can say that Iranian people, they don't really care what a bunch of, woke lefty celebrities have to say. If anything, I think the silence from the woke left adds legitimacy to our movement, because the last thing, and this is something else I want to point out. A lot of people are like, "Oh, where's Greta? Why hasn't Greta spoken?" I don't want Greta to speak on what's happening in Iran. Yes, exactly. Because once those type of people start latching on, that's actually going to delegitimize our movement. Like the Iranian national revolution is very organic. It's very grassroots based. Greta and, all these like Hollywood people, they're all like paid actors anyway. So that's why they're not speaking out. And, quite frankly, I think, history is going to remember who spoke up for the Iranian people and who didn't. But all those people in the Grammys, they're completely like irrelevant to me. Like, I don't even care if they say anything or not.
It would also force them to, given they were all so pro-Palestinian and anti-Israel and pro-Hamas in so many cases, given the Islamic regime funds Hamas and the Houthis and Hezbollah, it would also force them to actually accept that they supported terrorists, which would be, they'd never do that. They're hypocrites. Finally, Goldie, I'd love to know, what can people do? People with platforms share the stories, talk about it, don't be silent, absolutely. But what else can people do to help those on the ground? Because that, at the moment, whilst we wait for US intervention, military action, whatever it is that these people deserve and they've fought for, what can we do to help?
So the biggest help would be, I think, to put pressure on your local governments to recognize His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, as the leader of the Iranian national revolution, and to recognize that he's the only legitimate leader to transition Iran from an Islamic dictatorship to a functioning secular democracy. That would be the biggest help, because right now there are, unfortunately, a lot of elements in the left, or, the communists or the Islamists, who are trying to overtake the revolution with their own narrative. But there's only one name that Iranians in occupied Iran are chanting, and that's King Reza Pahlavi. And, over 50,000 Iranians have not given up their lives on the road to freedom just for, Islamists and communists to overtake the narrative and push their own agenda on the world. Iranians have made it very clear who they want. And so the biggest help that people can give is to respect our right to self-determination by supporting the leader of our Iranian national revolution.
Have you ever been prouder of your people than over the past month?
No, I've never been more proud to be Iranian, and I'll explain why. You know, growing up, Iran always used to be associated with terrorism. So many of us didn't even want to say that we're Iranian. And, you know, that's why a lot of people outside of Iran will say that they're Persian instead of Iranian, because, you know, Persian sounds nicer, you know, less terroristy or that kind of stuff. But, you know, Iran has existed for longer than Islam was invented, for thousands of years before Islam was invented. And, you know, after 47 years, we have finally demonstrated to the world, we finally shown the world that, you know, Iran and the Islamic regime are not one and the same. And
Yes.
not only have I never been more proud to be Iranian, I just want to give a shout out to all the Iranians around the world who have been rallying and demonstrating. I don't know if you've seen the footage from the Toronto police, but Toronto police put out a drone footage of the rally that happened in Toronto on Sunday, February 1. It was a free Iran rally. Over 150,000 Iranians and their allies participated. 0 incidents, no vandalism, no violence, nothing. And I think the police...
No flag burned, no Canadian flag burned. No.
No, in fact, people were waving the Canadian flag out of you know, patriotism. You know, no Allahu Akbars, no nothing like that. No calls for intifada. There were a lot of flags of Israel in there as well in the demonstration, a lot of American flags of Ukraine as well. So Iranians have really shown the world, you know, who we are. We are peaceful people. We're civilized. I mean, we're one of the oldest civilizations in the world. And, you know, right now, unfortunately, our country is occupied by a foreign Muslim Nazi occupation. But we are fighting for freedom, and we are going to get our freedom back. And I can't wait until Iran is free and we can welcome the world back to our country with open arms and show you guys what being Iranian really is all about.
Well, they will do that, I have no doubt, and a lot of that will be due to people like you who have fought tirelessly in this space. It's been incredible to watch, and I thank you so much for your voice. It's far too rare, but you're incredible, and thank you so much for coming on the show, and I'd love to have you back on, not just when Iran is free, but maybe before that. Hopefully it won't take that long. Fingers crossed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Happy to come back anytime. Thanks for having me.
You're amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that discussion. She's incredible, isn't she? It's been a long episode, so I'm going to keep fan feedback very brief. And it was quite, I mean, I say funny. It's not funny, but it is amusing to me because I feel like I'm so battle-hardened in this space of abuse now that it doesn't even hit the sides, which is wonderful. But have a quick listen/watch to 3 bits of feedback to a clip that we posted on X yesterday. And this was a clip about Kid Rock, or it might be a mix of different clips. We post a lot of clips. But in one screenshot, these are 3 of the responses that I got from my really great friends and fans. And I value you guys and your love for me. It keeps me going at 3 a.m. when I'm awake and I'm trying to put together thoughts for our shows and my daughter is asleep and I'm tired. It's this kind of response that encourages me to keep going, to not give up, to not go and get an easy job and have an easy life. It makes me emotional because it's my why. This is my why. Scott Matthew regarding Kid Rock and him not recognising me. Dingwall Scott on X. Makes sense he doesn't recognise you because you are a swamp lizard. Thank you, Scott. MG, Real MG75 on X. How's the Epstein files going, you dumb bitch? Care to speak about your handlers? Sometimes I don't even have words because it just fills a space in my heart that was otherwise empty. And then maybe my favourite, and look, it's hard to choose a favourite. It's really hard. Jamie Fuchs, JL Fuchs on X. Lying, and it rhymes with runt. Lying, runt with a C at the front. So guys, I know that you constantly reach out, you show me support, You ask me how I do this day in, day out, and why I do this. That's why. I love you guys. See you on the weekend, my darling ones. Cannot wait. Love you all. Even if you're a hater, you're still engaging. So thank you so much for supporting my work. See you next time. Bye.